little bit of technical difficulties back there, so it's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes on that, so apologize. It may actually work out okay because we have one commissioner who's missing, who's a little minor fender bender, who's running a little bit late, so maybe that'll give him a few more minutes to get here as well. So everything kind of works out for a reason. So just bear with us. We'll get started here in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Hey, Jeff, we're up.
Well, hey, we'll get started right now, apparently. So we're ready. So, all right. I will go on and call us to order then. So we are ready. I will ask Commissioner Hardwick to open us up in prayer, if you would, please, sir.
Lord, thank you for this great city that we have and the community that we live in. I pray that you will give us wisdom in this meeting to make good, sound decisions for our city. We ask your blessings. Amen.
All right. Amen. Thank you. Amen. Caitlin, will you call the roll, please?
Evans? Hardwick?
Here.
Hasty is on his way. Longmire? Here. Martin?
Here.
Silkwood? Here. Slattery is absent. Coker?
Here.
7 are here. 2 are absent. 1 on their way.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is an acceptance of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to accept our agenda as presented. I've got a motion from Commissioner Silkwood, it sounds like, and a second from Commissioner Martin. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. First up tonight are a couple of public hearings. The first one we have two different, this can get a little bit confusing. We have 2 different public hearings, then we also have citizens' comments as well. So we'll take these in kind of an order. The first public hearing that we have is relating to a request by HAB Properties LLC to amend the Triangle Phase 1 final development plan to add retail goods establishment, restaurant, carryout, and restaurant quick service to the list of permitted uses. This property is located at 593 New Shackle Island Road on the west side of New Shackle Island Road and on the south side of Old Shackle Island Road as identified by Sumner County Tax Map 145-057.02. There was nobody signed up for that public hearing, so I'm going to declare that public hearing closed and move on to our second public hearing, which is a request by Dean Jacobs to rezone 4.83 acres from suburban residential low density SR1 to general commercial plan development, and to make an amendment to the general framework map of the Hendersonville Land Use and Transportation Plan to change the character area designation of the property from suburban living to suburban center. This property is located at 1065 Saundersville Road on the north side of Vietnam Veterans Parkway and on the southwest side of Saundersville Road as identified on Sumner County Tax Map 146-004.02. Like I said, I know this can get a little bit confusing between the public hearings and the citizens' comments because we have several people that signed up for our citizens' comments that all seem to have Windcrest addresses. So I'm guessing that y'all probably intended to speak at the public hearing. So if nobody has any objection, I'm going to include y'all in the public hearing as well on that. But we also have, between those two, I think we have 21 speakers overall. Generally, our rules allow for 5 minutes for each speaker on that. It'd be in keeping with those rules tonight, but I'll just kind of ask y'all just to kind of police yourselves, and just if somebody gets up and says something that is almost verbatim what you say, and you don't feel like taking your 5 minutes, you don't have to on that. But if you want to speak your 5 minutes, you're certainly welcome to. I don't want to stifle anybody, but just doing the math on that, we can be here for a while if everybody takes their 5 minutes. So just kind of use your own discretion on that. But with that, we're our first speaker, and you'll have to forgive me, my eyesight's going a little bit, but this looks like Amy Tesson. Would our first speaker sign up, please? And when you come to the podium, if you would please introduce yourself again and give your address, if you would please.
My name is Amy Tesson. I am at 586 Lingering Way, which is part of the Millstone subdivision. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning and construction of a hotel and gas station known as Windcrest Commercial Plaza. While I understand the importance of development, I believe this project poses significant risks and drawbacks to our community. First, the addition of a hotel and gas station would inevitably increase traffic in one of the most congested intersections in our city. The noise and disturbance generated by the increased traffic would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods. Additionally, emergency services may find it challenging to navigate through heightened traffic, potentially endangering lives during critical situations. This would be especially true during rush hour traffic, etc. Hotels often generate noise with guest activities, deliveries, and operational machinery, especially in relation to the Windcrest community. The tranquility would be compromised, and the introduction of a hotel may disrupt the peace and quiet that the residents currently enjoy. Increased noise levels can negatively impact well-being, sleep quality, and overall comfort. The environmental impact of a gas station in close proximity to residential homes raises concerns about air and water quality. Potential leaks and emissions from the gas station could compromise the health and well-being of those nearby, not to mention the negative impact on property values. There are already 2 other gas stations within 500 yards from the proposed site, and a 3rd gas station is not required or needed. Studies have shown that the introduction of commercial establishments such as hotel in residential areas can lead to a decline in property values. This could have a long-term impact on homeowners, jeopardizing their investments and financial stability. Increased foot traffic and the presence of visitors may raise concerns, security concerns for residents. Residents may feel less secure in their own neighborhood, potentially leading to a decline in the perceived safety of an area, and which in turn affects the property value. Finally, the construction of a hotel in a residential area will not only affect property values, but will alter the character and aesthetics of the Saundersville Road residential communities. I'll be incredibly blunt here. The clientele this hotel could draw in is a huge concern. Hilton Hotels markets the LiveSmart brand is built to accommodate guest stays of 20 days or more. An article on Bloomberg.com dated June 23, 2022 says in 2019, a survey of budget extended stay hotels in suburban Gwinnett County in northeast of Atlanta found that 45% of the room nights booked were for stays of 30 days or more. By 2021, that had increased to 65%. Such a long stay often is a sign of residency, end quote. Hospitality Risk Solutions, which is an insurance and risk management firm for the hospitality industry, writes that extended stay hotels can be havens for crime unless extra security measures are implemented, including use of off-duty police officers and criminal record and sex offender background checks. Mahaffey Weber, a large Texas-based insurance defense firm specializing in the hospitality industry, states that extended stay hotels can expect an increased insurance premium over other hotel types. In addition to this prospect of physical damage, there may be more illicit activities that happen at an extended stay property. Unfortunately, there will likely be a higher rate of illegal drug use and other unlawful activities at an extended stay property than there would be if the property was a transient hotel, end quote. If the Planning Commission decides that there is indeed a need for an extended stay hotel in Hendersonville, aside from the ones that we already have, there are other parcels of available land in our city that are further away from residential communities and would provide better walkability to amenities such as restaurants. I do not want Exit 8 to end up looking like Madison. We moved to Hendersonville because it was a lovely community, different from surrounding cities with their cheap hotels right off the freeway. I urge the City Planning Commission to consider alternative locations for the proposed hotel and gas station that are more suitable for commercial development. Preserving the residential integrity of our neighborhoods is crucial for maintaining the well-being of current residents and ensuring a sustainable future for our community. I'd also like to point out that yesterday morning, I started a petition, and as of right now, 24 hours later, we have 325 signatures from residents that do not want this to go forward. So I thank you for your attention to this matter. I hope the Commission will carefully weigh the concerns raised by residents and make decisions that prioritize the long-term welfare of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to remind me that. Before I call up next speaker, there was something that was said in what you spoke that reminded me. Caitlin was going to mention, as several of you did email us, and she wanted to recognize the folks that did email that we have that. So Caitlin, would you please do that?
And forgive me if I mispronounce any names. Jennifer Gacia, Mallory Basson, Betty Callis, Bethany Ray, Luann Krieger, Lana Ciliano and family, Jane Ellen, Jeffrey Lee, Leslie Willis, Paul Ashley, Philip Fryman, Dory Klein, Michelle Tyndall, Ken and Cheryl Lubin, Amy Kazermerk, Jason Biggs, Amy Wolf, Michael Kuzibic, Josh Atkins, Kristen Atkins, Amy Tesson, Amy Dillon, Charlotte McKinney, Diana and Rick Caroline, Gail Blackburn, Chris Fearman, Scott and Dana Chevron, Chris Parks, Sonia Novak, Jeanette Hood, and Janice Singler.
Thank you, Caitlin. And I'll mention one other thing before we call up our next speaker, which will be Al Roberts. You're obviously welcome to applaud after that. Everything was fine in the last one, but I'll just, before anything, just please don't speak when other people are speaking. This is the speaker's time on that, so I just wanted to address that so we don't have any issue on that. But Mr. Roberts, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Al Roberts. I live at 111 Highland Ridge, which is on the backside of the Windcrest subdivision. I, too, am here to speak against this proposal, and I want to contain my remarks more to traffic issues and the choice of what's being built than all of the other things that the previous speaker went into. When we got the office buildings on the other side of Windcrest Way, there was traffic's going to be fine, you're going to be wonderful, everything's going to be good, and for the most part it has been. But I would ask any of you, if you have been out on Saundersville Road, rush hour in the morning or between 2:30 and probably 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, to turn out of Windcrest Way, you turn out and park, because there's no way to move forward because it all bottlenecks down. With no solution to that until the tunnel in 2030, this is going to be an ongoing disaster area for our police department, our fire department, and first responders. Then take the second factor into it, as I understand it from the previous batch of hearings on the other property, the only ingress and egress into that site will be off of Windcrest Way, which means everybody's going to be turning in, going about 100 yards, and turning left to cut across traffic. Again, rush hour, how many of you remember to get gas before you're going in the morning? And, oh man, I got to fill up the tank. You cannot constrict what we have in the entryway and egress out of the subdivision by putting those two businesses in that location. I had the occasion recently to have a local contractor at my home to do a little bit of work, and we were talking about it and talking about this proceeding tonight, and he said, oh God, he said, I hate to come out here. He said, it's terrible. He said, it's even worse when I try to come off Avondale, because you can't turn left off Avondale towards 386. You have to turn right and go up and go somewhere and turn around and come back. That's how bad the traffic is. If you consider the amount of traffic coming into and out of that service station and into and out of that hotel at peak times, it's going to be more of a mess traffic-wise. The buildings on the other side, while they weren't necessarily everybody's perfect choice, have turned out to be fairly good neighbors and good residents, at least from what I've seen. And somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong. They interact with the people in the community, providing some services that normally you wouldn't think of having. But you're not going to have that from a gas station and a hotel. The last thing that I'll mention is about, I'm going to call it the litter problem surrounding a gas station. I had the occasion late last week to have to go to the Exxon station at Anderson Lane and Main Street on 3 different occasions. There were bags of trash sitting in that parking lot that were there all 3 days. And that doesn't count anything that blew across into Brewster's or anywhere else. It's going to be the same thing for a Circle K, because a Circle K is a less expensive brand of gas than what Exxon is, and it's going to provide a lot more traffic coming into and out of it than you would see from the location at Anderson and Main Street. So again, I would urge the committee to reject this plan and request that they come back if they want to put something in there that would be more in line with the office buildings on that are on the other side, so that it's more of an aesthetic match on both sides to the community. Thank you.
Somebody's got their penmanship as almost as bad as mine, so I'm just going to say your address, and if you'll come up, please. 109 Elisa Drive. That thing. I like your penmanship. Hey, I'm not judging on that. Like, I meant that as a compliment when I said your penmanship was as bad as mine. So.
That's fine.
Yeah.
My name is Darylyn Ferris. I live at 109 Elisa Drive, which is on the Walton Ferry Peninsula. I'm here in support of these people, and I'm so glad to see what an outstanding turnout you have to support these people. I have friends that live out in that area, and I also come out in that area frequently. And my first thought is, my gosh, who designed this? This is terrible. And you've got all this traffic. You're right. You don't need any hotels there. You don't need more service stations. What they need to do, if they want to build another hotel and service station, go up there on Main Street near Chutes Lane, where there used to be a goat farm. And they were going to put hockey in there and houses and shopping, and it fell through because the county wasn't going to support it. That's where they need to put this, not down in an area that's highly congested and is a wonderful residential area. So y'all need planning, aldermen, all of you. You need to get this out of here. Do not do this to these poor people. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We've got one more that kind of falls in this category. So 114 Windcrest Way. All right. If you would, sir, please say your name.
My name's Daniel Stevens. I live at 114 Windcrest Way, which is directly almost across from where this development would go in. I'm not so much against the development as much as I am for what goes in it. Tonight, I gave a fellow law enforcement friend a call and explained the possibility of this project. His response when I told them that they were considering a gas station and an extended stay can only be described as highly concerned. As a former law enforcement officer myself with 11 years at HPD, I responded to call after call to the one extended stay we currently have in town. Overdoses, assaults, domestics, robberies, aggravated assaults, drugs, and more. You name it, we've probably seen it there. With gas stations being a hub for all kinds of criminal activity, this is an absolutely terrible combination. A gas station or an extended stay will be a tragedy for this community, the neighborhoods on Saundersville Road, as specifically Windcrest. In 2023, it is no exaggeration that the police department responded to an average of well over 200 calls for service between in-town suites and the gas station directly beside it, Speedway. West side or east side of town does not make it immune from criminals having a heyday right next to the neighborhood. This is an easy target, entry and exit point for a plethora of crimes. Hilton or not, it doesn't matter. Circle K or not, it doesn't matter. I understand that this is just rezoning, but this passing allows one more step to creating another hub for criminal activity in our city. Our neighbors deserve this, especially our kids in the neighborhood deserve this. Think about them, and the choice is yours. I appreciate you for allowing me to express these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Michelle Smith.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity to come here tonight. My name is Michelle Smith. I have lived in Windcrest subdivision for 25 years. I live at 112 North Lawrence Way, which is at the very back of the neighborhood. We're commonly known as the Christmas Street. It's been a wonderful place to raise our families together. Sorry, we formed lifelong relationships. How many are from just our little cul-de-sac here? And of our neighborhood, the whole neighborhood. And it's makes me feel good that this isn't just a Windcrest problem, that Amy has spoken and she lives just in a neighborhood down the way, because it really is everybody down that road's problem. Because as she stated about the traffic, I urge you to come out sometime at 5, 6 o'clock or in the mornings, and I wish I knew the exact length, but the line goes up to the entrance to our neighborhood from Gallatin Road, through that light, and all the way to our neighborhood. It's, and you have to think in the mornings with teenage drivers, school buses, and the kids that are driving through there, and that the amount of traffic this new property would bring is, would just make that worse. We talked about location. How would you feel if a gas station and a hotel was right in your backyard? These people right up against that, look how close they are. I mean, my heart breaks for them. And, I know we have to have growth and development, and I'm fine with that. And as, Al stated, the office buildings, we were all worried and nervous about, but they have turned out to be good neighbors. And I know that Paul Ashley has emailed you as well, and he couldn't be here tonight, and what he wanted me to really stress is that rezoning this property from residential to general commercial is the real issue here. We need something that would be more compatible with what's already there, which is like the office building, that would just go better aesthetically and is more compatible. Property values, I know several realtors asked their advice when the office buildings were going in, and they were like, you're going to be fine, it's fine. When I told them about this, they said, now it's time to get out. And I don't want to leave. I don't want to move. And I don't think any of my neighbors want to move. We've stayed together this long. When we don't want to be, but you have to do what's best for your family and the value of your home. We talked about the traffic. History, in the past, there's been other properties in Hendersonville where they've kept them for the green space. Well, we'd like to keep our green space too. And just, remember, we're not opposed to the growth. We're just kind of opposed to general commercial rezoning. So the Southview Professional Plaza located on the other side of the entrance serves as a better example of something that is more compatible. And it does foster support for small local businesses while maintaining the residential character of the area. And I thank you, and I please urge you to vote against this rezoning.
Ken Levin? Okay. Yeah. Darren Frank.
Good evening. My name is Darren Frank. I live at 108 Lawrence Way North. And of all the points that have been brought, I'm going to concur and implore you to deny this request. The one thing that I'm going to point out is actually in the hearing request itself, and I want to point out the wording is to change the character of the area that is currently designed for residency to something else. When you ask to change the character, you have zero skin in the game for what you're trying to change. You are bringing in a business for bottom dollar, and you do not care about what you are doing in the process. There are an infinite number of logistical issues with traffic, property values, all those things. But if we are a city committed to taking care of each other, you cannot approve changing the character of what makes the city exist on its own. This makes absolutely no sense, and I encourage you, when you get ready to vote and you pass this on with your recommendation, use the language of the person who wrote this to say they have no business changing the character of a city they're coming into. Thank you.
Joseph Siciliano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Siciliano. We moved to the Windcrest neighborhood 6 years ago this month. It was a little bit of an anniversary. We chose our neighborhood.
Would you state your address, please?
Oh,
sir?
123 Windcrest Way.
All right, thank you.
On that main road. Really like the neighborhood, really like the neighbors. It's been a great experience. We've made some good friends and really gotten involved in the community. I'm trying not to repeat things that other people have said, but I want some particulars. One about the traffic. When you're coming out, you're kind of gambling a little bit, because coming down that hill out of Windcrest Way, people fly, right? And you don't know if they're going to stay in that lane to go straight or they're trying to get on 386. I don't pull out until they're past me and I know I have a good gap, because they fly down that hill. They come up on it, and they get going. They're going 50, 55 miles an hour. So it's scary going that way. Turning left with the traffic coming up over the hill, you can't see anybody until it's a go-no decision, right? You're looking, it's a little easier at night with the headlights, but if you're going to turn left, you better get going, because they come flying up that hill. So adding congestion to that situation, I think, is a huge negative. Hotel, especially the long-term stay hotels, I think there's going to be a great increase over a normal hotel of food waste. All right, people are staying somewhere for 20, 30 days. They're going to be cooking their own meals. They're going to have need a pretty efficient dumpster system, and getting trash picked up almost every day. With all that food in the dumpsters, there's going to be rats in that, in that parking lot. All the other comments about, in general, that type of business sitting right inside of a neighborhood, I don't think that is a good fit. And as part of planning is, we've got places that are clearly residential. We've got places that are clearly general commercial or industrial, whatever they are. And a lot of times these decisions are easy. This is an edge case. This is where the two rub against each other. And I think that we need to be particularly careful in those edge cases, making sure that we make the right decision to change the zoning on something that sits right on a neighborhood. And just changing it to general commercial impacts the neighborhood in the long term. Because if that business goes away, then something else, even less desirable, could potentially come in and still impact the neighborhood. So my ask is to deny the zoning change. Thank you.
Ryan Surrier? Yes. I didn't say that. That's what I meant, though. So that's, okay, yes.
Thanks for your time today. I'm Ryan Survey. I'm at 115 Huntington Place. So this terrible idea is going to be in my backyard. So let me talk about the easy stuff quick. Gas station. So after tonight, I might go from having a nice house in a premier neighborhood to high crime neighborhood in one day. And the value to my home is going to go way down. But that's not really what I'm worried about today. It's the hotel. I have a 12-year-old daughter, Mia, and a 10-year-old son, Weston, and they like to play in the backyard. And I don't have to watch them. But they can't go in the backyard if this hotel gets built. You know, I know all my neighbors. A lot of them are here. I know their names. I trust them when they're around my kids. And I'm going to have 300 unknown neighbors in a big building a few hundred feet from my kids' bedrooms. Who's going to be in that hotel? Felons, sex offenders, drug users. So I lose my backyard and my kids lose their play area in the backyard. So I'm imploring you today to not rezone this. And I want you to think of my kids when you make that decision. 12-year-old Mia, 10-year-old Weston. All right? I appreciate y'all. Take care.
Some of y'all are writing in code tonight, so yes.
Darty Gimble?
Yeah.
Gimble? Dart, I don't know if that's, 103.
I'm going to try 103 Windcrest Court. That's, all right, thank you.
Hey. Randy Campbell, 103 Windcrest Court.
We weren't even close, so thank you.
Yeah, well, my wife Sherry's here with me, luckily at the same address. Listen, I really won't repeat a lot of the great points that have been made tonight. They've been wonderful, and I think that, everyone in this room, with the exception of the few that are trying to get this passed, obviously are against it. I do want to share a recent study on gas stations next to neighborhoods by the Community and Environmental Defense organization. You can find the study, by the way, at ceds.org. That gas stations can negatively impact neighborhood residents due to the 24-hour light intrusion, increased fire danger, excessive nonstop noise, loss of property value, groundwater and aquatic resource impacts, traffic issues, ongoing exposure to benzene, which are the toxic fumes that can cause or increase the risk of cancer, especially to those living within 1,000 feet of a gas station. Alcohol sales increase the likelihood of crime. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. The easy access of junk food and drinks can add to the obesity and cause health risk of teens and children. Easy access to a major thoroughfare. I mean, it's proposed right there at the entrance of 386. Significantly increases the likelihood of theft and armed robbery. And this study goes on to say how difficult it is to envision a situation where a convenience store and gas station could be compatible use anywhere adjacent to a residential area. I just stand opposed to it. I think everybody here does, and we urge you to oppose this. Thank you.
Jacqueline?
Hello. My name is Jacqueline Sekurcher, and I live at 107 Annis Court with my husband Patrick and our 3 children, 13, 11, and 5. So I'll start. I'm opposed. I'll go ahead and say that. My husband and our 3 sons have been residents of Windcrest since November 2017, which is when we moved to Hendersonville from North Carolina. We looked at several towns, Franklin, Brentwood, Mount Juliet, before settling on Hendersonville. One of the towns we looked at was one of our neighbors to the south, very popular one. And the most beautiful home we toured there was actually in an estate neighborhood. However, you had to drive by a trailer park, motel, a cash advance store with a gas station attached to it to even get into that neighborhood. We loved the house, we loved the yard and property. However, that immediately was a no. There was litter surrounding the outside of the subdivision, and there were people staring at us while we were making our turn outward that were just standing in the middle of the day with nowhere to go. Honestly, that turned us off to that town completely because it was clear that the town was building way too rapidly with no forethought of long-term property value or the peace of its residents. Hendersonville, however, was beautiful and safe. The crime statistics, natural beauty of balance of residential to business was all there to prove it. There's great outdoor spaces, the schools are wonderful here, and for the most part, everybody is friendly in this town and smiles. Right now, we're running the risk of changing all of that for quick money. Let me be clear, the land in front of Windcrest is unsuitable for any hotel or gas station, of which there are 4 large gas stations within a 1/2 to 2 mile radius. One is brand new and opened 3 months ago. Even a Ritz-Carlton would intrude directly into our neighbors' backyards, and it would add to an already dangerous traffic situation. If this property is approved for commercial at all, perhaps like our neighbors have said, an additional quiet business park like our law offices up front would be the best way to go. However, we're not talking about a Ritz-Carlton. The city instead is proposing a low-rent extended stay hotel and a very low-reputation gas station, literally in our neighbors' backyards. One neighbor that backs up to that land that you can actually see on this map has already sold their home 2 months ago. That was probably a smart move if we're going to take this path. On the Saundersville Road exits, which is one of our prettiest Hendersonville roads, it's peppered with smart and well-maintained family subdivisions all the way down and farms. And our city is considering putting up a corner that will invite crime, transients, litter, and excessive traffic at all hours. We might as well put up a lit-up billboard that tells prospective buyers seeking a nice home to run elsewhere. We moved into this neighborhood because it felt safe. As a woman, I have never felt unsafe walking here or going out to my car at night. And also as a woman that's lived elsewhere and grown up in big cities, I can tell you that that is not always the case, even in small towns, and we have seen that all too recently in the news. My oldest boys have enjoyed a life of riding bicycles to friends' home and exploring the creek on their own. This proposal, a cheap hotel and a gas station, will deny my younger son that kind of childhood and freedom is exactly the reason we moved to Tennessee in the first place. Everyone knows these types of hotels attract crime. Their very nature leads to transient residents that attract serious crimes, in fact, drug use, distribution, prostitution, assault, robbery, rape, and murder. There are neighbors right there that are going to be overlooking all of that, or excuse me, this hotel will be overlooking the neighbors. We moved here with an expectation of safety from Hendersonville. This proposal would instead leave all of us with an expectation of risk in this town. The HPD does an incredible job of keeping crime low here, and most serious crimes aren't even committed by Hendersonville residents, but they are people coming here purposely from other cities, our neighbors already. But now apparently we are considering inviting them to stay here. Think again, Hendersonville. On a day that I had to vote in increasing our sales tax to keep our area beautiful and wonderful and public parks clean, now I am having to defend my personal property values as a resident. It is a bit comical. All it will take is one incident, one at this proposed hotel, and all of the property values on Saundersville Road will go down. With such a significant area of our residential value on Saundersville Road, this will trigger a trickle-down effect in the whole city. Windcrest itself, if this is approved, will likely be taken over by rental properties, and that will trickle down to other subdivisions quickly. It always does. Our beautiful park and our library will be the choice walk-to for these transients. Let's be smart here and keep our town safe and beautiful. Please make the right choice.
Roger Mantle.
I'm going to try not to basically duplicate what's been said, but there are a few points I'd like to make. First of all, my wife...
Sir, would you state your name?
I'm sorry, my name's Roger Mantell, 103 Huntington Place.
Thank you.
Okay. My wife Annika and I moved to Hendersonville a couple of years ago, and after we searched the entire Nashville metropolitan area, we found that Hendersonville, which is called the City by the Lake, really did provide the best atmosphere, the most beautiful scenery, and by far the best community spirit anywhere in the area. The Windcrest neighborhood offered us a welcoming community, a beautiful home, a place to live unlike any other we'd ever really experienced. And this really is a place where families, individuals, and many others can truly feel at home. It's got a great culture behind it as well, musical and otherwise, as most of us know. Now, this proposal, if accepted, will not only change the character of the area, but it'll basically destroy the area in so many ways. First of all, as we've seen, extended stay hotels are known to attract transients, and inevitably there's an increase in crime that is associated with these types of accommodations. I don't have to go into detail about the unsanitary conditions. If you research this, you'll see complaints in these reviews mention cockroaches, garbage, unsanitary conditions throughout the premises. No workers cleaning up the mess. Sometimes the extended stay hotels have a policy of cleaning up only once every 2 weeks, and a very light cleaning at that. There's been people seen littering on the street, dumping garbage on the side of the road. Okay. The rooms are so dirty is another thing, according to somebody here, it is beyond belief, and the management runs the place like a bunch of slumlords. Okay. I don't have to go into more detail. I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody particularly, but I think it's obvious what we're dealing with here. Now, It comes as no surprise that extended stay hotels make a fortune for developers who capitalize on the fact that many people today are impoverished and have no choice but to stay in these kinds of places. Hence, the extended stay hotel model has recently become a hot entity in the business world. And again, I don't want to name particular places. There's a bunch of them here in Nashville and around the area. These hotels make a fortune for the owners at the expense of nearly everyone else in the entire area in which they are built. Is this a good future for the beautiful town of Hendersonville? I think not, and I doubt if many people living here think so either. I happen to be one of the people that literally is in my backyard is where the gas station's going to be, so I don't have to go into too many details about that. But anything basically in that situation is going to increase our danger area of pollution. The benzene emissions can increase the risk of cancer for those living near or working within 500 to 1,000 feet, and there's been many instances of leaks that go far beyond that. So obviously, that's not something any of us want to have here. Another major problem, it's been mentioned, I'll try to hit a few points at Haven. The proposed gas station and convenience store will most likely be open 24/7. So the combination of an extended stay hotel and a gas station will no doubt result in a constant noise level, which will continue all day and night, frequently disturbing residents and making it difficult, if not impossible, for people to sleep at night. Now, how can this be acceptable in a residential area? Okay. I've seen reviews in which people have complained that people were standing outside, barbecuing, socializing, shouting, speaking loudly without any regard for their neighbors in these kinds of places. Okay, so again, the combination of a transient clientele, increased noise level, and unsanitary and unsafe conditions will inevitably be accompanied by an increase in crime. And just remember this, because that's one of the first things these people always propose. Creating a buffer zone by planting trees and bushes or building a fence will not solve these problems. All right? And as has been mentioned, since the Windcrest neighborhood is located near a major highway, all criminals need to do is break into nearby houses, then jump on the highway with a virtual guarantee that they will not be apprehended. And of course, there will be an increased danger to children living in the area. Just what we need in this neighborhood, right? I won't even go through the traffic that's been mentioned a bunch of times. Again, I'm trying not to duplicate things, but that's a nightmare as well. And yes, maybe the tunnel will mitigate this problem, but now we're looking at how many years before it's built? And we don't, and besides, by that time, the increase of traffic will be basically unbearable and unnavigable as well. Okay, now, along with their bid to rezone the property, as somebody mentioned here, the developers want to change the character area designation of the property from suburban living to suburban center. This in itself is quite telling. If you read behind the lines, what you find is that this area will no longer be good for living, and they've even taken the word living out, but instead it'll be a suburban center. So instead of a living center, it'll now be a gathering place, okay? A place which will accommodate a transient clientele along with all the crime, noise, pollution, garbage, and pestilence that goes with it. Obviously, this will no longer be a living place for residents like us. Hendersonville has been rated, as nobody has mentioned yet, as the 16th best place to live in the entire country. Well, obviously, if things like this happen, it's going to lose its rating pretty fast, okay? Why should we be forced to have the value of our properties decreased due to corporate greed of this nature? This proposal is certainly not compatible with our residential neighborhood in any way. From an aesthetic standpoint, it does not fit. It will increase crime, cause pollution, increase noise, and bring pestilence into the area. In short, it'll decrease the quality of life in this beautiful area, not to mention our property values. If this proposal goes through...
Sir, that timer was 5 minutes on that.
Can I just finish the sentence?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If this proposal goes through, the residents in this part of Hendersonville will pay a huge price. The neighborhood will be thrown to the wolves. And if this happens, how could other residents in this town have any assurance that their properties wouldn't suffer a similar fate eventually? We can't believe those of you who are responsible for considering this proposal would allow this to happen. We hope you feel the same way about Hendersonville as we do. Thank you.
Annika, you have signed up as well. Did you want to speak? Okay. Okay.
Well, he said it all, and you guys, you said it all. Your speakers are so great. And Annika Mattel, 103 Huntington, right there, right next to the gas station. And we are so happy to be here, my husband and I. I just say, think about this as a whole thing. Hendersonville, this beautiful town with all the activities for families, safety, kids are running around, they are biking, fishing, boating, all this character with music and restaurants and everything. This is a whole quality town. It's important to keep it that way. I know you need money, and the whole America needs money, I guess, because they tear Nashville down with the Music Row and everything else. Even if this is a suburb to Nashville, we don't have to be like Nashville. We don't have to look so terrible like Nashville. People will not go to Nashville soon because it's nothing, no character. But they can come to Hendersonville, guys. I just propose, cancel this whole thing with the extended hotel and this whole, just changing residential to commercial. That's say it all. You're not so weak so you can change your mind, right, because of the money? No. So just keep Hendersonville as it is. Bring investors from Franklin, like this company is doing the Franklin money deed, and then go back to Franklin and leave us as it is, right? So they can go to Franklin, but they can also come here if they want to invest in good stuff, right? For kids, for different songers, singwriters, and restaurants, you know? We need more of that. So people can stay here, they can work here. They don't have to go to Nashville. They can stay right here, work, they can entertain, they can spend the money on everything here in Hendersonville. So keep the people here, don't chase us away, okay? So that's what I said. Increase quality and stay firm on your belief and your values, you know, what you started out with. Please do that. We don't want pollution and noise and trucks, zoom, zoom, all night. No. So in the name of Jesus, we just thank you.
Okay. Stephen Rozier. Rozak? Rozak? Yeah. All right.
Stephen Rozak, 110 South Lawrence Way. I just got 3 points to bring up. One is our city spends a sizable amount of money, which Keith Free knows, on the land use transportation plans, the adaptions of it, the modifications of it with Kimley and Horn. When we spend that kind of money, at least use their recommendations. Do I really like the company? No, I don't. But I think we should do our own land use transportation plan, but that's a side point. But we still spend a lot of money with that. The second point I want to bring up is when we have these developments, and I don't care if it's a hotel, I don't care if it's a subdivision or whatever, and I know many of the board members here I've spoken to, and they disagree with me on this. If you're going to spend money and build a development or any kind of structure, business or otherwise, they should be required to subsidize our city for the cost that we're going to incur years down the road for this. And I don't care. It's part of the thing. And one of the things that comes to my mind, and we're always talking about that, is the tunnel, the mysterious tunnel that doesn't ever exist. And the last thing I want to bring up, the third point, and I'll be real close on this. I travel to New England, this corridor, the East Coast, up to New England, up to New York State, in that area. This past summer, I went and tried to stay at hotels because I'll drive like 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, and then I get a hotel before I go on for my next 8-hour jaunt. And I stop at a few hotels, and this was in Roanoke, Virginia specifically. I'll tell you the city. And I went in there. I could not get a room. Why couldn't I get a room? Because the government agencies and the NGOs are housing the migrants who come into our country illegally. And I, as a citizen of the United States, could not get a hotel room. And people think that's a fictitious thing. Try traveling up this corridor. Try traveling in the United States.
I failed to reset it. You've got time, so
Okay.
my apologies.
Try going to, which I would never go into New York City again, or Chicago, or any of the major cities. But Roanoke, Virginia, it's a small little town, and they were overloaded with migrants, and that was last year. I don't even know what it is today. Consider this before you even think of a proposal. An extended stay hotel, who do you think is going to be the residents? Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I think we've already had it here. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, he was on there.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on there twice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Randy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Natasha Buttry?
Well, that's a tough act to follow, I'll tell you that. So I'm going to skim through these because you guys have done a stellar job of covering, you know, all the primary points. I echo Dr. Frank completely. Thank you, Amy. So my first ask
Would you
is...
state your name and
Oh,
address,
I'm so
please?
sorry. I kind of black out when I talk in front of people. My name is Natasha Buttry. I'm at 131 Tomorrow's Way. And for anybody using the mic subsequently, I'm not actually sick. This is just how I sound now, apparently. All right, so real quick, the zoning is the real issue here. You know, I have to eat crow about this, and I'm looking at you, John. I mean, the commercial properties that we have on Saundersville have actually been exceptional stewards of our community. They take good care of the exterior of the building. They have provided services to my own family. We won't even bring up the S word, but aside from the S word, we have had a wonderful, wonderful time with these property owners. So my ask would be, if we are going to change the zoning from residential, I don't know what the codes are called here, but CN, where I come from, is a commercial neighborhood intended for very low density offices, things like that. We've talked a little bit about the health risks of the gas station. I know that you all are very sensible people and likely too sensible to approve this, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. A 2001 study noted, first of all, I want to lead with this. We live a little farther back in the neighborhood, but we built out so that my mother, who is in her 60s, can reside with us. We bought in Windcrest because there are no association and we could build at our leisure to our own standards. My mother is on oxygen and will be for the rest of her life. So that's my dog in this fight. A 2001 study noted median ambient benzene levels, as mentioned, were 1 point, up to 328 feet from a service station. A 2004 study conducted in France documented a significant relationship between childhood leukemia and living near a gas station. Let me know if you'd like citations for these. The 2010 study conducted in Spain documented elevated air pollution within 100 meters of a gas station. 2012, Brazilian researchers found that air quality was significantly degraded up to 150 meters air quality from a gas station. Air quality and pollution. Sensitive land uses deserve special attention because children, pregnant women, and the elderly, those with existing health problems, are especially vulnerable to the non-cancer effects of air pollution. I won't go on and on because I mean, I could give you 100 citations. Breathing in gas fumes, bad. Drinking water with pollutants, also bad, is the short of it. You know, I won't get into the vapor recovery. I think that's been spoken about. So common reduction measures that are used are stage 1 and stage 2 vapor recovery. These have been found that 99% ineffective in controlling all of the pollutants caused by gas stations. The hotel, elevations. You know, I remember being in this room when there was conversations about what an appropriate elevation was for a commercial property that faces a residential area was. And we appreciate everybody on the board for, you know, making sure that there was fluidity in the aesthetic. However, 2 stories is about our max. A friend of mine over here, Christine, our daughters play together in her pool all summer. Her house is right smack in the middle of the proposed development, which would mean that a second floor occupant would be able to look out their window and see my daughter and her daughters swimming in the pool directly below them, plus the 3rd and 4th floor occupants. That's silly. And I really want to point out something. The developers did have a meeting, a community interest meeting a few months back where all of these fine folks were, and we had an opportunity to talk to the developers. I will not discuss the gas station at this time, but when I did ask the consensus, the developers, why Hendersonville, why this spot, their response to me, and I quote, was, because it's cheap. That's not good enough for me, guys. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is that one scratched out?
Yeah, that one they scratched out.
Okay, Sherry Myers.
Sherry Myers.
Okay. Okay. Did they, I'm gonna just confirm she
Make sure that other one was
yeah,
Michelle Smith. Yeah, she already told me, didn't she?
I think so. I didn't know she was not.
Maybe just check to make sure
Okay.
it's scratched out, but just make sure. Michelle Smith.
Michelle Smith, it looked like you signed up that maybe scratched out. Okay. Oh, that, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Sherry Myers.
Hello, I'm Sherry Myers, and I live at 111 Huntington Place. So I'm right at the end, like where there's a pond there or something. I don't know. Hopefully it wouldn't be like a mosquito breeding ground. But we would be right behind this proposed development. First, I'd like to say I prefer that it remain a residential zoned area, but I mean, I understand that that might not be possible. Like, my husband's here with me, and our bedroom's right on the back of the house, on the corner, like, going to be really near that hotel. If this were a office development, like what's on the other side, it's not, is it what we would love to see in our backyard? Not necessarily. We really enjoy the deer and the peace and quiet, but at least with an office development, you don't have people there at night. You don't have people there all weekend. I mean, what we're looking at here is a 24/7, you know, basically a circus behind us with noise, trucks coming in to empty dumpsters, that beeping noise, you know, I know most of you probably, I mean, when we have a residential trash picked up, we don't have a big, huge truck with a big beeping noise, you know, I mean, this just is not really gonna work well for us at all. And we've been in our house for 17 years, and, you know, we don't want to go anywhere, but, you know, we're 2 doors down from the Garners with their in-ground pool and their daughters, and, you know, a 4-story hotel with people looking out on their backyard. I mean, that's just, please, please, please vote no on this. Thank you.
Tom Sanders.
Good evening. My name's Tom Sanders. I live at 128 Windcrest Way. My biggest concern is the safety of our families that live in Windcrest subdivision. We have a lot of young kids, a lot of young families that live in the area, and nobody wants to have, you know, crackheads or drug addicts or whatever, you know, trying to get in their houses like I had a couple of years ago. And I was out of town, and we had just put cameras in our house, have an alarm system, and I was getting ready to go to bed up in Cincinnati, and I heard my phone beep, and I looked at it, and there was a guy walking down my driveway with a hood on. So I called my wife, and I said, "Are you out in the driveway with a hood on?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, you call the police." So she called, and they were there like that. Well, somebody had already called them. They caught one guy up underneath my deck. There was another guy up underneath the steps of my deck. The guy that they arrested was high on crack. He could have harmed my wife. You know, who wants to have somebody in the middle of the night, you know, be scared to death about their family? Nobody wants to do that. You know, I never owned a gun before until that incident happened. Now you don't want to come into my house. But what I'm saying is, we have the extended stay hotels. I traveled for quite a few years. I know what those extended hotels are like. There's nothing but drug addicts They're vagrants. They're people that live there for months and months. People get arrested all the time. Nobody wants that in their neighborhood. And I'm sure every one of you sitting up here would not want that. You know, I have my grandson comes to my house. I don't want to have to worry about him, you know, playing outside, you know, being kidnapped or hurt because somebody wants to make a couple dollars. We don't need that in this area. You know, the traffic situation, we live, you know, probably half a mile from First Baptist Church where we attend. I used to be able to leave at 6:15 on a Wednesday evening to get there at 6:30. I have to leave at least 10 till 6 to be able to make it to church at 6:30 because of the traffic. They shouldn't rename that area right there Malfunction Junction, because that's what it is. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, trying to get out of there early in the morning, just like people have stated, it's crazy. I mean, it's wonder there's not more accidents than there is right now. You bring a hotel and a gas station in there, trying to turn in off of Saundersville into that area right there, there could be a lot of accidents. You know, so just think about our lives. We have a good life in our subdivision. And don't let a couple dollars, you know, change that. Thank you so much.
Christine Gardner.
Christine Garner, 107 Huntington Place. If you couldn't hear me, I'm the house, my husband and I own it at 107 Huntington Place. I believe, Ms. Longmire, you might have sold it to us, if I remember correctly. Our neighbors, your family has moved to Iowa and we miss them, but we were very happy to buy that home. At the time, our kids were 2 and 3 years old. We have 2 daughters who are preteen now, and they do love to have friends over to play in the backyard, to swim in the pool, and to have a transient hotel back there. If you've actually looked at that property, it's a very thin tree line. So I can see the kind of car that's driving on Saundersville Road right now. It's that clear that you can see through those trees. And Tasha, actually, when you look, the first floor people staying in that hotel will be able to see my kids and their friends swimming in the pool, and the 3rd floor and the 4th floor. It's a major concern for us because we're right there, but it's a concern for the whole neighborhood to have the noise, the crime, the pollution, the traffic. I mean, I'm not going to belabor the traffic issue. There's accidents all the time. We see stuff on our neighborhood Facebook page about there's another accident at the exit. There is a major traffic conundrum right there that is not even close to being solved. If the new tunnel happens in 2030, that's ages away, and we need relief before we can allow something like this to add to the problem. So on a personal level, I'm concerned about noise, compromised privacy, our property values, perceived and real safety for us and our neighbors. My 11-year-old daughter's bedroom is on the back of the house. They will be able to see right into her bedroom window if she doesn't close her blind. She basically won't have a window in her room. I won't allow her to open it if we've got a transient hotel neighbor. So it does impact us very seriously, but on a less personal note, there's a major impact related to sunblock. If you're putting a 4-story building behind our house, there's going to be a significant sunblock and shadowing related to the height of that building. We barely were comfortable with the 2-story building in terms of aesthetic, but this is more on the sunblock side as well. It's going to block the sun rises on that side of the house. We'll have about, I don't know, a couple hours of sun, more than likely, if that hotel is built. The railroad situation we discussed, that's so far out for solving our traffic issues. The transient focus is a concern with the proximity to the neighborhood. So I'm not really opposed to building. I'd love for it to stay residential. I understand that someone wants to make money on this land. I'd like it to stay houses. I'd like there to be a buffer zone. I definitely care about how high this building is that's behind our house. So it's what we're doing with that land and how high it is. And I love whoever said, let's just maintain the character, because there are very few really cool parts of Hendersonville that are just this rolling hills of neighborhood after neighborhood of a really great area with a great school, and I'd like to just maintain that. And I think we can do that indefinitely if we make the right decision.
That is everybody that has signed up for the public hearing. Was there anybody that intended to speak at the public hearing that did not get the opportunity to sign up? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kim McDowell. I live at 101 Windcrest.
Okay, can you give him just a second to
okay.
write the thing? You said Kim McDowell, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
D-O-W.
Okay.
And I did not come to speak. But sitting here listening to everybody and sitting here and looking at all you guys, I'm sitting here going, okay, there are several of you that have kids. Y'all have grandkids. You're going to have great-grandkids. My kids are grown. My son goes to Vanderbilt University, and he is fighting right now for domestic abuse. He's working the Samaritan House for drug abuse. He's also started end overdose. And I really don't know if y'all really even think about how that's going to impact this area. Not just where we live, but we're going to turn into the new Nashville, which we could turn into Franklin, Brentwood, something magnificent. Y'all haven't even thought about child trafficking. I mean, have y'all considered that? Used to, selling guns was the #1 trafficking. Now it's children, because they can sell them over and over and over again. Not just our kids, y'all's kids and grandkids. This will start where we're at if y'all bring this in. But it's not going to stop on Saundersville Road. It's going to take over Hendersonville. The drugs are going to take over Hendersonville. And I don't know how many of y'all know about fentanyl, but the very tip of a needle can touch your child and kill it. That's coming if we don't fight it. And for y'all not to think about that because y'all are on another side of town. I was on another side of town. I haven't lived here but 4 years. But if my 20-year-old that's still a child is fighting this, and our own town is not looking at it, is not looking at the impact of our schools, y'all's kids, y'all's grandkids, nieces, nephews. Even one of you could pick up $1 with fentanyl on it. Y'all aren't thinking because it's on the other side of the town. And you aren't thinking because we do need the money. Every city needs money. But not at the expense of our kids. Not at the expense of our families. I have 3 boys, but I have nieces I've been terrified that would be pulled in to trafficking. We donate to child trafficking. My sisters donate to child trafficking because it's a serious problem. And if you bring something like this hotel and this gas station beside it that allows people on and off of 386, it's going to happen here. We already have one kid missing in Beach. We don't know where he is. Do we want to bring this to the entire city of Hendersonville? Or do we want to think about this and make some good decisions for the families that live here and y'all's families? It's not just ours. It's y'all's too. So I'm just asking y'all to think about these things. Look at the numbers on the drugs that's going to be brought here. Look at the numbers of these kids that have been taken. And think about that when y'all look at this decision to bring something like that so close to all these people's kids. Mine are grown. But my heart breaks for them because I love watching these kids run in my neighborhood. They run and play in the creek behind my house. They go through the little tunnels behind my house. That's the way kids should live. They shouldn't be fearful to go out in their yard and be afraid that a drug addict or somebody else is going to take them. So just please think about those things when you make these decisions. Thank you for your time.
I didn't see anybody else that raised their hand. Okay, well, I guess I did. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lonnie, L-A-N-I, Siciliano, S-I-C-I-L-I-A-N-O. I live with my husband, who spoke earlier, 123 Windcrest Way. My family moved here 6 years ago, as he said, and we have 6 children. 4 of them are now considered adults. The youngest one of them is 18, and we still have 2 at home with us. I mean, they're all at home in the summers. I wanted to mention things that I didn't hear anyone else say yet. One, there are other places where a hotel and a gas station could be built in Hendersonville that are not directly adjacent to a neighborhood. A neighborhood that's not new. This neighborhood's been here for more than 20 years, 25 years, many of these homes. I think my home's that old. That's not appropriate. Would any of you want that built next to you in your backyard 25 years later? I don't think so. Secondly, I want to talk about, I did participate. We moved here. We did our due diligence when we bought our home. We learned from past homes in other states. We checked all the zoning of adjacent open properties when we purchased. They were all residential. We moved here and immediately the office's situation was proposed. And luckily, thankfully, planning made the wise decision to limit that, and it is zoned as office. That's what I'd like to see stay here. That's the only thing commercial that really should go there. They look like our homes. They're only there during the daytime. They're not there during the weekend. And they're actually lovely. They've thrown parties with us and brought in like taco and barbecue trucks for us to celebrate. They snow cones for the kids. It's been lovely. There are no issues. They also do have another entrance. They don't have to just use our road, which the documents on the reports say that this property needs to be using our entrance only, which is not fair. I also noticed when my husband and I were looking at the website that the property across the street from this, next to Avondale on Saundersville, is zoned neighborhood commercial. Even that wouldn't allow this. So why would that side of the street be neighborhood commercial? And suddenly ours would be switched to general commercial, backing up next to houses. In the backyard where kids are swimming and playing. My kids also love to walk. I walk. I love to walk around Huntington because that's a good exercise up and down that hill. I will not do that anymore. I'm not a young woman anymore. I won't feel comfortable if there's a hotel and a gas station there. There's absolutely no way. I actually think, sadly, we love this city. We stepped in. My husband coaches the high school hockey team, and he's been doing it for years, completely volunteer. With the inline rinks, we spoke then for those to get them rebuilt. We love this city. I spent a year searching before we moved, because we moved here with my husband's company, with UBS. We got relocated to Nashville. I spent a year searching for where we would live and picked Hendersonville. Please don't make us need to leave. Thank you.
I saw one more.
Hi, I'm Bethany Dialola,
Okay.
Diolola,
Okay. I think we're going to need that one more time if you don't.
Diolola. I spell my name all day long. I'm
What
at
was your
one,
first name?
Bethany,
Bethany.
Bethany.
Thank you.
I'm at 118 Windcrest Court. This is my youngest. We have 3 children, my husband and I. Just moved to the neighborhood a little over a year ago. I think we're at like a 13-month anniversary from Inglewood, from the East Nashville area. I grew up in Hendersonville and just love it. We moved back here to be with family. We moved from Inglewood because we wanted a safer area for our kids, and Hendersonville is such a great place to raise children. I work at First Baptist for the BAB Center. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work in mental health, so I have plenty of concerns about the potential change in demographic that's going to be in our area. And I just wanted to say that, we're really concerned about the safety of our children. There was a gas station just down the street from our home in Inglewood, which is, it's a really nice area. It's totally been, redone there, but this gas station was still a gas station, and there was a homicide there just over a year ago, and it was over an attempted carjacking. And so I just think about that experience and some other things that gas station brought in, and that's just like not even talking about the hotel situation. So we just are really hoping that our neighborhood continues to be a safe place for us to raise our children and feel safe going and walking around the neighborhood and being in the backyard. So thank you so much for your time.
With that, I'm going to declare this public hearing closed. We move on to the next item on our agenda, which we've got a couple things to come up before we get back into dealing with this particular item. We've followed the agenda on that. But next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our February 6th meeting. I'm assuming all commissioners have gotten the opportunity to review those, so I will entertain a motion to approve our February 6th minutes. I believe I heard Commissioner Longmire first on that.
So I've got a comment on
Yes, sir.
the minutes. So in the last Planning Commission meeting, we talked about the lights at one of the projects, and it came up again in Boma. So I looked over the meeting minutes, and there wasn't any information on how we disposed of it, I think. I was confused as to whether Boma was going to discuss it, but it sounds like it was going to be planned for the site plans, and this is for the soccer field. The adjacency of the soccer field to Grace Place, whether that was going to be an issue, and I think we talked about settling that in the site plan review.
Director Freeman, can you speak to that just for clarity's sake?
Yes, we can add that in there to make sure that's clarity,
Okay.
it has clarity in there. So we can add that information in there. So we can move forward with the approval of the minutes, adding what Commissioner Martin had noted, and staff will make sure that that's included in there.
Thank you. We have a motion, and Commissioner Hasty, you did second? Yes. Okay, correct. And does that satisfy your concerns? Okay, thank you. With that, I'll move to a voice vote to approve the minutes from February 6th as presented and with Commissioner Martin's notes for that to be clarified on there. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and it looks like we've got one item on there. Keith, or Director Freer, I'll let you just tell us briefly about that.
Yes, this project on the consent agenda is the Elliott Electric Supply Site Plan that's located at 217 Innovation Way. This is a new building off of Innovation Way, just sort of right off of New Shackle Island Road. Everything's in order. and they've agreed to all staff comments. And one of those comments, the applicant is going to continue to work with staff on the exterior of the building to make a few changes to that.
Thank you, Director Free. Going to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move we approve with all staff comments.
All right. Thank you. I'll take your motion, Commissioner Hasty, and take your second. Commissioner Silkwood, can we move to a roll call vote on that, please? Move to electron. We're good? I think things reset, so people need to vote again, if you don't mind, please. All right. I think things reset. If y'all need to press button again, things reset for now. All right. I think everybody is locked in. Caitlin, will you read the results, please?
Seven ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 8, which is a development plans. This is for the Triangle property. This is, do we have a representative from the developer here on that one, please? Okay, would you step up, please? Grant, I believe.
Yeah, if you can come.
Okay, no, yeah, yeah.
Grant's not here.
Okay.
Me and Sydney.
Okay.
Sydney will take
Okay. Sydney is going to pinch hit for Grant on that, but just, I want you to just kind of hang around. We're going to let Sydney talk first, but just wanted you kind of there to kind of present after that. But Sydney, if you'd get us started on this, please.
Sure, yes. This is a request for the addition of a couple of uses for the Phase 1 of the Triangle, which is that lot that the BP is on, and this is exclusively for that lot. They're requesting the use of a retail goods establishment and a quick service restaurant, as well as a carry-out restaurant at that location.
Sir, if you would state your name and if there's anything that you'd like to add to.
I'm not the owner of the property, I'm just a contractor. I'm
Oh.
TJ Elston with Elston Construction.
Okay.
They
And
just
it
asked me
is-
to come to make sure y'all didn't have any questions on the build-out.
Sure, and it really is just for the end cap of that building.
Okay.
The shell's already there.
Okay. I'll open it up to questions, comments from commissioners then. Commissioner Silkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the space being used for currently?
Storage,
Just storage?
just gravel.
Okay, thank you.
What do y'all, I mean, I know you're the contractor, but what is the end goal that y'all want to put in
I
there?
think he wants to put a small retail shop in there.
Do you know the specifics of what he's looking to put in there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think he wants the option to put like a Subway or some kind of sandwich shop in the
Okay.
future.
Okay. What about the retail side of it? Do you have any, because it looked like, let me find it here, looked like you wanted to sell some goods in there in addition to the quick service restaurant, and I was just kind of curious what thought might be on
I
that.
think it's one or the other.
Okay.
If he doesn't do the if he doesn't do the sandwich shop, it'll be like clothing or something, I believe.
Okay. Commissioner Hardwick.
This is a question for staff. Looking at the end of the building, I see a window, could be possibly a drive-through or pickup window. Is that an approved use with what we're asking for? And then the other question, if it's just general retail, could it be a vape shop, tobacco shop, or would that be an approved use within this as well? Thank you.
Yes, both of those uses would fall under the request.
Yeah, if it was something that was a quick service restaurant that utilized the drive-through window, they would have to meet all site plan requirements as well. Okay. So the use, if this was approved, The use would be okay, but if they were going to use it for that, then we'd have to take a look at the site and the building and make sure it met all our different requirements.
One last question. If we approved some type of food for a Subway sandwich, donut shop, whatever, do we have to approve the retail use as well?
No, you could do one or the other. I think initially, though, the request from the applicant was for the retail, and then was adding the other as well. But I think initially, the applicant didn't hear, but I think initially that's what the discussions that they were having, and then added the potential for the food service as well. It was kind of it was just a little odd looking at the development plan. Typically, with the building the way it is, with it being segregated on that end cap, to be something different, and it has a separate entrance and everything. Just the use for that whole thing was listed as a C-store, and so it didn't have any additional uses. But the building, as designed, was as you see right there, which had a separate, something separate from the convenience store.
So it was clearly designed
For something, yeah, that's correct.
Whether it be
Yeah.
retail, dry cleaning, whatever.
Yeah, it was just kind of odd that there wasn't retail or food or some other use that was actually noted on the plan.
Other questions, comments from commissioners? I'll just make the comment myself. I am comfortable with the add use for the quick service carry-out restaurant, and just and especially not knowing any details about the retail. I'm not particularly inclined myself to add that as a use, so I'll make a motion to approve the addition of the quick service restaurant, but just leaving out the retail goods addition of that. So that's my motion. I have a second from Commissioner Evans on that. We'll go to a roll call vote on that. Or I guess I will open that up for discussion first on that. I'm getting a little ahead of myself on stuff. Do we have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Silkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's a good decision, not having a better understanding of what exactly entails, what would be entailed there at a just broad retail category. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Chairman?
Yes,
If
sir.
I could get clarification, did your motion include just the quick service restaurant, or did it also include carry-out restaurant?
It's both.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, now we've got a motion and a second, so we'll move to a roll call vote on that. I think we have, Caitlin, will you read the results, please?
7 ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, number 9 on our agenda, there seems to be something about a Windcrest commercial plaza. Does anybody here know anything about, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is there a representative from the developer here on this? Timothy, I think you were the lead on staff on this, and this actually comes in 2 different parts, because obviously we have 2 different requests. We have a request for the change the future land use plan, and then we have the comprehensive development plan. I'm going to defer to Director Free on this. Would you recommend that we take these in 2 separate things, or to handle them together?
They could be handled as 2 separate items, or you could put them together. It's okay to put them together. It's just 2 separate things, because we have what the future land use plan is saying for that area, and the applicant is requesting that be changed to allow a future land use change that would then make the pathway potentially for the combined development plan / rezoning, which is a separate thing. So I think it's okay for discussion to probably just discuss it together. But when it comes to the vote, vote on the amendment to the future land use plan first, then vote on the combined development plan / rezoning.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's kind of what I was thinking there on that, but I think that was the best approach on that. So, Timothy, I'll let you get us started.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to go through talk about the location of this, but I think everybody knows where it is. So I will just run through the future land use plan. So the subject lot is currently, the character area is shown as suburban living, which is the same character area that's to the west and northwest, the Windcrest subdivision. To the north of this lot is the suburban center. That was, that future land use was amended from suburban living to suburban center back in 2018 to accommodate the Southview Office Plaza. And then to the northeast, that yellow portion up there, that's the commercial portion of Millstone. That's sort of outlot, retail, office-y kind of neighborhood commercial kind of stuff, as well as self-storage. And then to the east, the purple, that's employment center, which is heavy commercial, industrial kind of uses. And then switching to the zoning map, of course, this lot is zoned SR1, as is the property to the west and northwest, the Windcrest subdivision, that's SR1. The property to the north, Southview Plaza, Office Plaza, that's zoned office plan development. To the northeast, Millstone, that's MXRPD, and then to the east is neighborhood commercial and heavy commercial, and back of that. And then to the southeast, where the Ghost Store is, that's zoned general commercial plan development. And the vacant corner lot at Avondale and Saundersville is shown on the master plan as a potential future fuel station. So the proposed use for this lot is a four-story hotel, would have up to 121 rooms, as well as a fuel station on the north end that would have 14 pumps, or rather 7 double station fuel pumps. The proposed access, there's one full access proposed off of Windcrest Way. The plan also shows a right in, right out off of Saundersville, but you'll note in the Public Works comments that Public Works disagrees with them having that access. On the building architecture, of course, they're required to meet our minimum building standards. The staff's expectation is that they meet those, but also that because they're requesting a plan development, those plan developments typically meet and exceed building design standards. So that's staff's recommendation, is that if this moves forward, that they would continue to work with staff to meet and exceed those standards for both the hotel and the fuel station. On the buffer, there is a required 20-foot width buffer, landscape buffer along the west property line, common with the Windcrest residential subdivision. No tree survey has been conducted. That would come with the site plan, but it is evident that a good many of those trees are on this property. The Planning Commission may want to consider, if this gets approved, we want to consider making it part of the master plan, that the city's expectation is that every effort be made to retain the existing trees and minimize disturbance to the root zones, because those existing tall trees would go a long way towards helping somewhat screen a four-story hotel. Now obviously, I think as y'all pointed out, in the winter, that's very porous. You can see through that. Less so in the summer, but it would be important to. Well, we should consider making an effort to retain those trees. I think that, that's everything that I have.
Thank you, Tim. CJ, would you like to, anything that you'd like to, if you'd introduce yourself
Yes,
first
sir.
off, and then if there's anything that you'd
Yes, sir.
like to add.
CJ Merle with 615 Design Group, 1517 Hunt Club Boulevard, Suite 300. I would like to start out, thank you for Commission for your time and staff for your time. Staff has been very gracious with their time throughout this process as we've met with them to try to develop a nice project and product. We've been very transparent and upfront since the beginning. We first met with staff to have a pre-app. Shortly after that, we met with both aldermen for this district, and shortly after that, also held a neighborhood meeting, as some folks in the audience have mentioned. Normally, whenever you have a neighborhood meeting, you would send letters to the adjacent property owners. We sent letters to the entire neighborhood of Windcrest, just because we wanted to make sure we received feedback from everyone in the neighborhood. We had the neighborhood meeting. We had plus or minus 40 people show up to that meeting to receive their feedback and did our best to address the concerns as it related to access, lighting, site layout, traffic, and the landscape buffer. To speak to the zoning and the land use for this, normally there would be concern for a spot zone. From a land use perspective, you have suburban center to the north, and as they mentioned earlier, you have employment center to the east. From a zoning standpoint, you have office, as they've previously mentioned, to the north. You've got MXR PD to the north. You have NC to the east, and you have GC, which is through a PD to the southeast. Would like to clarify, I know several folks mentioned that this would be general commercial. If this was obviously approved, it would be GC with a PD tied to it. So if there was future development on this property, the future developer that did that would have to come through and revise the PD and get approval through that. The only two uses we're showing on this property is the convenience C-store and the hotel. So if there was anything else that was added to this property in the future, they would have to amend the PD to do so.
Folks, everybody's been pretty respectful, and I just please let them the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Jeff. As far as the site plan is concerned, we've made every effort to stay off of the landscape buffer that Timothy mentioned. Have made every effort to keep that and also add to it where we can. We have pushed the buildings as far off the property line as we can. We've pushed the fuel pumps as close to Saundersville Road as we can, and have made every effort to provide access to the site that we can. With this access to the site, I know Timothy mentioned, and in the staff report, it's shown that Public Works was recommending removal of the access onto Saundersville. We have since come to a resolution with Public Works to allow for the right-in, right-out. The dual access to the site would provide obviously better connectivity from those entering the site, and also from an emergency personnel standpoint would allow for sufficient access to the site. As far as everyone obviously has mentioned traffic, early on in this process we engaged a traffic consultant. We have since received that traffic study. The traffic study that the recommendation we received in the traffic study, once we got it back, was in relation to the full access that we were previously showing onto Saundersville Road. Obviously, with the right-in, right-out, that those recommendations would go away. We did receive comments from Public Works to add plus or minus 8 additional intersections to the traffic study. We have agreed with Public Works to add those to the traffic study, and are in the process of relaying that to the traffic consultant so that the traffic study can be updated and provided prior to the site design stage of the project. Obviously, there is likely to be additional recommendations that come forth from that study, considering the amount of additional intersections that are added to that study. From a traffic study standpoint and the right-in, right-out access, one of the things that were mentioned in our meetings with Public Works was that there will likely be additional improvements on Saundersville Road in relation to the right-in, right-out to prevent folks from making a left turn into that right-in, right-out along the frontage of the site along Saundersville. I would like to point that out, that likely that would result in a median similar to the one that's further north of Windcrest Way. We are also, from a traffic standpoint, we are also coordinating with TDOT as it relates to our access and proximity to the on-ramp at 386, and as it relates to Avondale. Saundersville Road itself is not a state route, but obviously the proximity to 386, we wanted to try to meet with them as quickly as we could, and we have included Public Works in that coordination as we go. To summarize, I mean, as far as the use and the ultimate owner of each property, we have 2 national corporate brands that would be maintained and managed corporately, not by someone local. So it's one of those things where it's I would argue the maintenance and management is something that isn't taken lightly. This would provide a convenient option for citizens on the north side of 386, and some could argue that it would eliminate dual trips daily for folks crossing the at-grade railroad crossing to the south. The other thing that I would like to mention is although this is an extended stay hotel, the Hilton brand and the end product that they would be putting at this location is at the high end of the price point for the extended stay hotel, and would argue is nowhere near similar to the in-town suites that's on the eastern side of the city, western side of the city. Sorry. We agree to staff comments. Happy to answer any questions y'all may have. Appreciate your time.
I'll open it up to questions, comments from commissioners. Commissioner Silkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just for the sake of clarity and understanding of everybody that's here and also the folks at home, I would like to ask Director Free to sort of overview the process of how a project comes to the city and the role the city plays, as well as the role of the Planning Commission in this process and these proposals. Thank you.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. What happens, like, for example, this particular project is very similar to other projects. So we have processes where you can ask for rezonings, or in a case like tonight, they're asking for a rezoning, and they're also asking to change the future land use. Those are documents that the future land use, the Planning Commission makes those decisions, and it starts and stops with the Planning Commission when that decision's made. The decisions on rezonings, or in this case, it's a rezoning and we call a combined plan, a comprehensive development plan with it as well. Those are recommended from the Planning Commission, and then BOMA, our elected officials, City Commission, we call it Board of Mayor and Aldermen, then they make the final decision on that. The process before it gets to here tonight is anybody, regardless of whatever they want to do, they can make application. And so, for example, in this instance, the applicant has made an application. They talked to the city through this process. Also, I think met with the folks or had an opportunity to meet with folks in the neighborhood. This by no means on anything that really comes, for the most part, up here to the Planning Commission to make a recommendation or even just a site plan on something to make it to make an approval or denial on it. Those things are not originated from the city. So these aren't things where the city is seeking out those types of things. Those could happen at some point, but they would be fairly rare, and everybody would be aware of that. But the everyday kind of things that we're dealing with here on this particular item, these are things that any applicant can apply for. And then what happens with the Planning Commission, then they look at the information that the applicants provided in the plan, and they look at all of that stuff that also is available to the public. And then the staff does a staff report, and some of you may have seen that if you got online. And so the staff provides information for the Planning Commission, and then the Planning Commission, in this case, they hear from the public. And today it was more than 20 folks that came to the podium to discuss it, as well as about as many people that sent emails that the planning commissioners had access to most of that information prior to this meeting, and the rest of it that happened after last Friday, they've got access to that on their desk tonight. And then then the planning commission gets to hear for the first time, from the developer and the applicant, and they take all of that information, and then they make the best decision that they can. And so that's kind of how that process works. So it's not on any given thing typically like this. This isn't something that's necessarily the city is seeking out or we're trying to discourage. It's the opportunity anyone has to request rezoning of their property. And is that kind of what you're talking about? So that's kind of how that process works. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Director Free. Thank you, Commissioner Silkwood. Other questions, comments from commissioners? Commissioner Evans.
I guess I might as well open it up here. Oh, I was actually thinking that might be a good place for a chicken restaurant. But seriously, there's a place for everything. And I believe that a residential neighborhood needs to have a soft buffer rather than going from 0 to 90 miles an hour in a split second. And from my perspective, this does not look like what ought to be put there. The ride in, ride out on Saundersville Road, it doesn't appear to me to be effective. I've been through there too. I don't live on that side of town. I live on the other side, on the old peninsula. But I go through there quite often, and most of you know, I've met with you folks before a couple of times, and I am somewhat involved with the Southview development in one way or another. And let me just get sidetracked here. Today's election day. And today, more than anything else, we all ought to be thinking about our democracy and how it's working and what we ought to do to make the best of it that we can. And I'll say again, like I said the last time I met with you folks, God bless you for participating in this. Thank you. This is what it's all about. And having said that, there is something that fits there, but I just don't think this is it. I don't think that the entrance should be into a residential neighborhood drive-through. I don't see that as being the kind of a buffer or the kind of transition from an estate residential area to heavy commercial. So my vote is going to be no on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Hasty.
I'm a little hard hearing. What was your name again, sir?
My name is CJ Merle.
Okay. You're the engineer?
Yes, sir.
Are you a traffic engineer?
No, sir.
You're not?
No, sir.
Okay. I guess the traffic was one thing that concerned me. And I know the city engineer or the staff came out initially and said, we don't want any access on Saundersville Road.
Yes, sir.
But they said that you could petition the Planning Commission for something different and provide substantiation to the Planning Commission. Well, what I got in my packet was a traffic impact study that assumed you had full access on Saundersville Road.
Correct.
So that's what I based my decision on. And the traffic impact study, if you look at page 27, 28, or figure 8, and your improvements, is nothing more than putting a traffic turn lane into your full access point. And that's all I got to evaluate.
Correct.
if you have a right in, right out, anybody going north has got to go through the entrance of Windcrest subdivision to get to the hotel and to get to the service station.
Or make a U-turn.
And if they're at your service station or at your motel and they want to go north, they got to go out through Windcrest entrance subdivision. And even if you go with a right in and a right out, I'm not so sure you got enough queuing space between your entrance on Windcrest subdivision and Saundersville Road. I couldn't vote for anything until I saw another traffic study that's going to impact that area, and I think it will impact it significantly. And more than just a left turn lane getting into your site ain't going to cut it. And I think using a 2-year build-out time as your background data for your traffic study is not significant. And even you mentioned, or who your traffic engineer mentions, 2033 with only one phase of one subdivision as your background traffic. Your background traffic will be less than your build-out. So by the time you get it built, what your mitigations are going to be obsolete. So I don't think it will work. And as far as the gas station is concerned, I think the Planning Commission members will remember, we just approved a service station just down the road on Saundersville Road. And I reluctantly voted for that one because we got 2 right up here within sight distance. So if I reluctantly voted for that one because the other 2, I sure ain't gonna vote for that one. So I think we I don't think it fits, as Mr. Evans says, but I think from a traffic standpoint, and your traffic engineer has got a whole lot of homework to do to convince me to vote for it. I don't think it fits, traffic-wise or otherwise. So that's good. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Commissioner Hayes. Commissioner Silkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the traffic that Commissioner Hasty spoke about, one of my concerns is just the intensiveness of the use, the hotel plus the gas station abutting the residential area. I have serious concerns that those property values are going to drop. It's going to be detrimental to the property values of the folks of Windcrest, so I would be voting no as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Silkwood. I'm going to speak for just a moment here. Y'all are not privy to this, but one thing our staff has started doing to help us as planning commissioners, I believe it started with our January meeting, but has been particularly helpful. They've given a list of, I think started in our January meeting, but given us a list of criteria to consider. This is frankly to keep us out of court, which we appreciate very much. Criteria that we can legally consider when it comes to rezoning requests. And there's one that sticks out to me right here. It's number 2 on this. It's, will the proposed plan development be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, comfort, or general welfare of any portion of the community? I think from what we've heard tonight and what we've seen and what just frankly our own horse sense tells us that this, what's being proposed here is it's a definite yes on this. I mean, it's just, especially on the hotel side of it. I mean, it's just, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts on that. And so I'll be voting no on the rezoning. I think some of the conversation, and I'm in agreement with this, is that for future development on this, office would be the most likely to be the highest and best use of this property. And I think and Director Free, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the current office on the other side of that is actually suburban living on that. Is that what that is, the future land use? Is that, or suburban center? Yeah.
Yeah, suburban center.
Yeah, suburban center.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So I'm less opposed to making the land use plan changed, but I'll be voting against the rezoning. But at that point, it's even a moot point then to even change the land use plan on that. So if it gets voted down, it's not gonna, it's a moot point on that, but I'm less opposed to that. But that's where I stand on this. But looks like Commissioner Evans has something else he'd like to say. He's still lit up, so I'll shut up here on the, well, no, he doesn't on that. So, but I will open it up to other questions, comments from commissioners. Or if somebody wants to make a motion on something, we can do that too. Or I'll make a motion on something since nobody's feeling particular. Since we do need to take this in two separate votes, I am going to make a motion that we approve the change in the land use plan with the expectation that I am then going to follow it up with a motion that we deny the comprehensive development plan. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the future land use plan amendment to allow the suburban center. And can I get a second on that? We have a second from Commissioner Longmire. Can we go to a roll call vote on that, please? Is everybody locked in? I think we've gotten everybody on that. Caitlin, will you read the results, please?
Jeff, I pushed the wrong button.
Well, thank you for leaving me hung out to dry completely on that, Beth.
That's already failed.
Yeah.
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 Is that correct? One yes, or would it, Ms. Longmire, you change your vote?
Okay.
Yes, I need to push the button again.
Okay.
No, you're good. One yes, 6 noes, 0 abstention, motion fails.
No, she hit the wrong button, she said. Next, I will make a motion that we deny the request for the comprehensive development plan based upon the traffic concerns cited, based upon the item in number 2 cited about the endanger of the public health and safety, the findings of fact of traffic, of the detriment to the public health, the safety, the comfort, and the general welfare of any portion of the community. Yes, sir.
I got a question before we move forward. If we haven't amended the land use plan, then it makes the next one null and void. Whether you vote yes, no, or otherwise. The plan hasn't been amended to have a plan to approve. So, in my opinion, it's null and void.
Director Freed?
Correct, Dick?
Right. That could be listed as a finding of fact for the denial of the comprehensive development plan. But whenever you do a rezoning, like in the future, if you do a rezoning, typically what we do is like we did tonight, is we have a change to the future land use and then the rezoning. But you could in the future, in another instance, you could actually rezone the property and just say that item number C, that the conditions affecting the area have changed to sufficient extent to warrant an amendment. But you don't have to actually do an amendment. But what we do is go ahead and clean it up through that process. So it is possible that you
Well,
could, but
okay.
it can be a finding of fact that it's not in
But I think to
conformance.
make it clean,
Yeah.
if he's gonna make a motion to deny, we can clean it up. I'll second his motion to deny, and we'll just vote.
Okay.
So we got clarity on that was what we're doing, so, because we also needed to have the findings of fact, which did not accompany, yes. So, so we have the motion with the findings of fact that I have made to deny, and then Commissioner Hasty has seconded, and so if you're in support of denying this, you vote yes on this. So we will move to a roll call. Okay.
So I'm confused. To vote no, we needed to vote yes?
If you're opposed to, yes, because this is a motion to deny. Yes. Yes, you do.
I know this is after the fact, but can we make it as one of the conditions that we chose to deny was because the land use plan was not approved?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that needs to be in there.
Yes, that was, yes. Yes. So did y'all catch all that?
So I have the denial based on traffic, the number 2 finding of fact within the staff comments, and the future land use failed.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
And that was 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 0 abstentions.
Correct.
Motion pass.
Yes. Motion to deny passes. So, yes, so, yeah. Thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
uh,
Commissioner Evans.
could Director Free explain to these folks what we just did by denying the change to the land use plan?
Yes.
It was my intention that I want to see what is going on that piece of property before we change the land use plan.
That's fair. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah,
Director Free?
I can explain that. So what happened here this evening is you had the 2 items. You had the change to the future land use plan, which that was denied, and that's what the planning commission, that doesn't go to BOMA, to the elected officials. That just sits here with the planning commission. So the future land use did not change. And then, based on the motion with the items of the findings of fact, was recommending a denial to BOMA. So this is moving forward to BOMA, to our Board of Mayor and Aldermen, our elected officials, and with a negative recommendation. And the future land use has not changed as well. So then, in a week from now, then it'll go to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen's General Committee. It's just like 3 of the aldermen that are there, and different things that come from planning and other places. They kind of pass through that before they get to the full board. And then 2 weeks after that, there'll be a first reading at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. There won't be a public hearing, but there will be citizens' comments. And then at that first public hearing, not public hearing, at that first reading, if there's enough votes and it passes, then there's a second reading about a month later. But if there's not enough votes, then it dies at the first reading. And so that's the process. So it's still, though, just to explain to the Planning Commission as well, that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, they could still, even with a negative recommendation from the Planning Commission, that's always still a possibility, that they could still approve the plan development and the rezoning. When that happens, when there is a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and it goes to BOMA and they want to overrule it, then it takes the majority of the voting members. So, it takes a majority of how many elected officials there are, not just the majority of how many are there maybe that evening voting. So that's kind of what happens. So does that kind of explain that? Okay, thank you.
If anybody has any questions, we will be here afterwards, and I will say that we'll probably wrap up in about 5 or 10 minutes, so feel free to hang around on that. So, at least I'm hoping we'll wrap up in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So, but no, we should be on that. So, next on our agenda is item 10, staff level projects that are pending, and so I'll turn it over to Director Free to kind of run through these.
You can see all those on there, the BP charging station, Broken Paddle Outfitters, Glen Oaks Section 1, re-subdivision plat, Mayfair Phase 2, final plat, Rancho Cantina, exterior color change, Solage Track B subdivision plat. All those are in process at their staff level review. I will mention something on charging stations, and everybody's familiar with the charging stations over by Chicken Salad Chick. After seeing, that was one of the first of these larger type charging stations, the one over by Chicken Salad Chick, that is concerning to the staff, just on the overall size of the facility. So we're taking that into account as we're looking at the BP station, and we've requested them to move back where they were suggesting to put that. We're also looking at our existing zoning ordinance to see how we can regulate those a little bit more within the existing language. So we're in the process of looking thoroughly through that. If we can't find the way to do it within the existing language, we may be coming back to the Planning Commission with a slight amendment to correct that. We believe that these are going to be all over the place eventually, but as you can see, the one out here at City Hall, where it's quite small, the one we have here, and I think a few others in town. But these larger quick charging stations, they have these large cabinets that are almost like a industrial refrigerator on the size of them. And where they're placed, we really need to be careful because we don't want to distract from our natural environment and our built environment of these nice developments and commercial developments that we have by, having these almost equivalent to a small gas station inside of a gas station, but they're wanting to put them other places as well. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, Mr. Chairman, and that's all I had on that.
I'll leave this with you because next on item is Planning Director comments. Do you have anything addition that you'd like to share with us?
For comments?
Yes.
I do, and I'll just roll through them here real quick. We continue to work on development impact fees, and we will have for residential development, and we are going to have a work session with BOMA at 6 o'clock next Tuesday. And then also it's going to be for a first reading at BOMA at 7 o'clock next Tuesday as well for development impact fees. And at the next week's BOMA General Committee meeting at 5 o'clock, it's a different time, typically at 6, and it's been changed to 5 for that development impact fee work session. But we will be talking about zoning enforcement and kind of the processes that we do with zoning enforcement. Last year, we had, I think, 1,285 zoning violation letters that we sent out. So we're going to talk about that process with the General Committee. The TBN was approved by BOMA, so that's completed with their preliminary development plan. They'll get a final development plan to us here moving forward. We continue to work on a 10-year transportation plan. We're working on a timeline on that, on trying to get that probably done here within the next 4 months or so. We're doing that in-house, and there is going to be an opportunity for the public to participate in that and give us suggestions on different traffic improvements and transportation improvements, not just the big stuff, but even the small stuff for that. And also wanted to let everybody know I did talk to Tim Altizer, and he is doing well, and he regrets he couldn't be here this evening, but looks forward to being here in the near future. And that is everything that I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Free. Appreciate everything you do. Appreciate everything staff does. I know we had a long meeting tonight, but want to thank you all very much. Thank the public very much for being here. It's just, sometimes it's not fun watching sausage be made, but this is, man, we're one of y'all too on this. But thank y'all for being here. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Now, we had some eagerness on that, so I'm going to. Who made the motion and who that's second? So that was just so fast. Okay, okay. We're going to give you all credit for that. So Commissioner Silkwood got the motion in, and then we'll give Commissioner Evans a second on that. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition, I will